There's no name greater than his name. Woo! He is all-powerful. He conquered death. He rose from the grave. He conquered death. He can face your circumstance. And he can be victorious. So set your eyes on him.
I've been struggling most of my life with severe clinical depression, and to the point where it was shutting my body down. So I've had many struggles. A lot of things happened when I was younger, and in the last couple of years, I ended up losing my marriage. So it was extremely difficult the last 18 months or so. And that kind of brought us to this conference and what happened, what God did in my life. The first night, Jeff Collins does a conference, and it's called Breath of Heaven. And the first night of this conference would have been my wedding anniversary, which I wasn't celebrating this year. So I came here with a really heavy heart, but I was expectant. And I had remembered I had said something, asked the Lord something. And I said, I open my heart to you, Lord. I ask for mercy from your throne, peace for your world, and joy for my life. Because I was missing a lot of those things. And I just felt I needed to ask the Lord to be there. So that night I came, and I had someone pray for me, and I felt a little better. That was a Friday night. And then as the conference went on, I had some amazing things happen to me. Oh, I have to back up 1 sec. Because before the conference, I was getting to feel the last couple months that my life meant nothing. Because my marriage was a mess. My adult children were now dealing with this mess. And I was a teacher for most of my life, and I had to go back because I was unemployed, and I found this job as a preschool teacher, and I was struggling. Things I used to do very easily were extremely hard, and I thought, I'm a horrible teacher. I failed as a mom, I failed as a wife, so I was feeling pretty down, and I kept hearing in the back of my head, but the Lord's good, and he's good all the time. And all my friends that had supported me through this long journey of the depression were always telling me how good God was, and how wonderful his love is, and how great his joy is. And I had little glimpses of that joy, but I could never hold on to it. It seemed like it would always slip away. So I had asked the Lord within the last couple months to show me something good. And I asked him for two things. One was to restore a relationship I had lost many years ago. And another was to show me one of my students. Did I matter? Did I matter to someone? As a teacher, did I help them somehow? And so I just kind of let it go. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my prayer partners. I told no one. So when I went to the conference, with expectancy, right, because the Lord always shows up, and I went on Friday night was really good worship. I felt like the Lord was going to show up, so I was very expectant, and he gave me some peace during worship. So then Saturday morning we were listening to a gentleman talk, and he was asking if someone had a pain in their arms, and the last year, or the last, so many months, I've been diagnosed with severe carpal tunnel in both hands, my wrist and my elbows. And he said, can I pray for you, if you have, pain? I said, well, not so much pain, but numbness. So he prayed for me, and it was very just peaceful. I didn't feel anything. And I was like, okay, Lord, well, I know that your word is good, and when someone prays for you, it doesn't come back void, so I'm going to hold on to that. And then he sat down, and we had started talking. And he was talking about the breath, God's breath, his ruach, when he breathes on you. And he can take dry bones in Ezekiel. And Ezekiel spoke to the bones, and they became alive just from the word of God, from his breath. And I thought, Lord, I feel like those dry bones. There's nothing good here. I know you're supposed to love me, but in my heart, I know in my head, but in my heart, I can't hold on to that. Every time someone prays that on me, I sob. So he's talking about God's ruach, his breath, and how he would breathe on those dry bones, and he brings life to them. and he brings joy, and he can repair things, like all the sinews were repaired. And I just started crying. And I didn't know really why. I just felt this sadness, and I kept crying, and my tears were coming down my face. And there were like 20 people in the room, so I was trying not to be noticed. And the music that they were talking, the lady was singing it was about God's love and how he weaves into your life angels and people that take care of you. And as I listened, it felt like someone was just pulling sorrow out of me. Just pulling it out of my heart. And I kept thinking, no, Lord, I don't want to be this person again that's sitting here sobbing. I just want to be here. I want to be noticed. I just don't. And the more I said that, the worse it got. So I just tears kept falling. And Pastor West stopped talking, and the lady was just kind of singing softly, and I'm still sobbing. And a friend of mine came alongside of me, put her arm around me, and said, it's okay, it's healing, right? Jesus holds every single tear that you cry, and he holds on to them, and he can bless others, and he can bless you through that. And I couldn't even talk to her. I kept sobbing, and I was like trying to make her go away, because I'm like, this isn't going away, I'm going to be there, I don't know how long, and she wouldn't leave, and she goes, I'm not leaving you, I'm staying with you. And she held me in her arms, and that felt like the Lord was just wrapping his arms around me. And so I just kind of melted. And then later we had lunch and stuff, but I felt different, but I couldn't explain why. I didn't have words to express it at all, because I thought, what was that all about? I didn't like remember a lot of stuff. I didn't see any pictures. Sometimes when the Lord downloads something to you, get pictures, or I do. And I had nothing. All I could feel like all I had was all this sorrow and this hurt, and that I just couldn't stop. So we went back the second half. This is like amazing weekend because it just didn't stop. Went back, and this woman who was about my age was talking about how God asked her to, she sold her house. She was a nurse, but she sold her house, and she didn't know why. But she kept saying, but I trust the Lord. The Lord asked me to do it, so I trust him, and I just kept walking. I didn't know what was coming, but I just kept hearing him, and I just kept following him. And then she talked about all the wonderful blessings that he provided through that. She was now helping people. And I went up to her afterwards and just said, how did you do that? How can you trust God so much that you had no idea what was coming? How did you do that? And she looked at me and she said, powerful soldier. She goes, I pray for you. And she says, you're a powerful soldier for the Lord, and there's many more good things coming. And I was like, that's not me. That's not me. And she goes, no. She goes, Jesus loves you, and he's got more to your life. And she goes, that's how I was able to trust him, because I know in my heart that God honors his promises, and that if you trust him, the next thing that he sends you will be what's for your life. That's what it'll be. It'll be for your life. So, let me stop a second. So I was like, okay, all right, I'm kind of getting this, So, there was just a lot of really good worship, a lot of wonderful things happening. And I just kept sitting back and going, all right, Lord, I don't get it, but I feel different, but I couldn't explain it. So Sunday morning comes, and I usually go early, so I went to the 9 o'clock Mass service, and I worshiped, and it was just, I was like happy, like there was just this wonderful peace, and I thought, wow, this is cool, like I could dance around, and then I got the flags out. That was the thing that was cool, because I haven't been able to bend and hold things or have any kind of grip. I've gone through like physical therapy and stuff, but I hadn't really, because I was wearing them 24/7, like all day long, all the time. And so I really hadn't taken them off, and I thought, ooh, I just want to grab a flag. So I grabbed the flags, and I was waving the flags during worship, and I didn't hurt. My hands didn't go numb. It was so cool, because usually my whole hand would go numb, or half of my fingers would go numb, or they would hurt, and it didn't. And I'm really moving them around, so that was cool. And I shared that with my pastor. And so I have a best friend who I want to sit with. She came to the second service, and I help her with her business. And she's one of my prayer partners. She's the one who prays for me. She saved my life with her prayers. So I wanted to talk to her, so I went out to go talk to her. And a lot of times during worship, this sounds silly, but I take my shoes off so I can dance around. And I left them underneath. I put them underneath the seat. No, they don't bother anybody. They just sit there. And I heard in my spirit, go get your shoes. And I went, what? I want to sit with Rosie. I have this inner dialogue, and I'm going, no, I want to sit with Rosie. And he's like, no, get your shoes. I'm like, really? All right. So I turn around, I go back in the sanctuary, and I put my sandals on, and I walk back out. And as I'm walking out, this woman says, Miss Kathy. I turn around, and here is a family that I had when their son was now 18. He's 6 feet. I'm looking right now, I'm only 5 feet, and I'm looking up at this very handsome, amazingly happy young man. And she goes, oh, I had a feeling. She goes, you know, I had a feeling you would be here. The Lord told me I would see you today. And, you know, like he set that up. You know, like as soon as I walked out the door, there she was. And she's telling me about her children. They love the Lord, and they worship. They're in the worship team, and I love music. So for me, worship and music is my best way to love the Lord. And I couldn't like, Lord, this is too good to be true. You know, I asked you, and here's this whole family that I used to know, and they're happy, and they know you, and they love music. Well, that was it. I was like so happy, just like all this joy. So they were like here visiting our church. I said, okay, well, I'll go and sit with you for the worship service. So I did, and we had a great time worshiping. And near the end of the service, they said, well, if you suffer from depression or anxiety, come on up, we want to pray for you. And I went, all right, I'm going, because that's my thing when they offer that I go and give prayer. And I started to go down the end of the row, and I felt this, like, where are you going? Like, I don't hear a voice, but you know in your heart when the Lord talks to you, you just know, because it wasn't for me. And he says, where are you going? And I went, well, I'm going. And he said, don't you feel my peace? And it kind of, like, took my breath away. Like, it's sitting there in my heart. I don't feel sad. I can feel it, and it's real. And I had so many friends pray over me for his peace to be in my heart, for his love to like be part of who he made me to be. And every time they pray that, I would cry. And I could never rectify the difference. Why, if I know in my head that your word does what it says? Why can't my heart grab it? Why, if someone prays that, do I cry? Here's this person being so happy, praising them with all these wonderful things, and I'm sobbing. And I thought but this time, it was like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's really cool. So this family is like the pastors want to meet them, and so I'm like, okay, and she goes, no, you're coming with us. And I go, I'm coming with you. She goes, yeah, come on. So she takes me with me, and we're talking to the pastors, and they're meeting their sons. And pastor is looking at me like, what are you doing up here? Like, he didn't know I knew this family. And I said, well, yeah, they were, and this has been really cool. And I had told Anita in between the services that had been my prayer. That I had asked the Lord to send me a family, and they were the family. I didn't mention that before, but so somewhere within the time when I'd seen her in the part of the service, and she goes, you have to tell your pastor what you told me. Okay. So I told him, I said, this is what I prayed for, and here they are, and it's so cool, and I can use my hands. He's like, oh, yeah, he goes, yeah, you can use your hands, and I'm like, yeah, this is really, really cool. And I said, all right, I'll tell you one more thing. And he goes, what? I go, when they asked for prayer, I go, I didn't go up there. And he's looking at me and he goes, yeah, because usually you're up there. And I said, I didn't have to. I was like, the Lord fixed that in my heart. He goes, that's cool. I said, yeah, I'll take that one too. So I went home, had a break, and I wanted to see if I could keep it at home. Because when the Lord makes changes and you're in the community of worshipers and you all have that excitement and it's easy to hold on to it there. But I thought, well, if I go home, is this going to stay? Am I going to lose this? And I thought, Lord, please don't let me lose this. Please let me be able to hold on to what you're giving me. And there was like the words that the woman had told me the day before. She said, you don't have to strive. You don't have to cling. The Lord, what he gives you freely, and it stays. You don't. I thought, okay, is that true? So I went home to see if it worked. Just to test it out, because I'd gotten, happy and cheerful in a service and then gone home and been home and all this stuff happens and I'd be right back where I was. And I went home and I thought I felt different. I felt different talking to my one of my children. And so I went back Sunday night. But when I went back Sunday night, I couldn't sit still. I was like, a lot of times when I go in the service, the Lord will say, well, go sit here, and I'll sit there, and I'll be fine, right? And I sat in one place. No, can't sit here. Had to move. I moved like 3 times. Talked to like 4 different people. I'm like, can't sit still. And all of a sudden, Pastor West says, oh, hey, we can get started, but I need to find somebody. And he's looking around, and I'm not paying that much attention to him. I'm just fixing. He goes, oh, over there. And I'm like, over here? And he's kind of pointing this way. And I turn around looking for the person he's pointing to. And I'm looking for them. And he's going, no, you. And I'm like, well, who's not reacting? And he goes, no, I mean you. Yeah, you. I'm putting you on the spot. She didn't know I was doing this. Get up here. And I'm like, I don't think I want to go up there. And he's like, come on. So he asked me to tell everyone in the congregation what had happened, which I already told you about. And I'm standing up there and I'm trying to talk, but I kept laughing. And I'm trying to explain the story and I kept laughing and I kept feeling this joy. And it was just like there, it was just there. And so he asked me at one point to pray for everyone. And I'm looking at Pastor West going, really? And he's like, yeah, just pray. So I prayed. I don't really know what I prayed, but I just prayed for the joy of the Lord to come to everyone that was in the room, just for his presence to be made known and just, give everyone to their heart what he had given me. And then the other gentleman came and stood next to me and goes, don't pray with your eyes closed. And I was like, okay, that's right. Yeah, I remember that from a class. You're supposed to look at the person you're praying with so you can, be, kind of be sensitive to what's happening. And I'm like, okay. But I was feeling really overwhelmed. and just like I didn't, it was just kind of cool. And he says, now look around the room and find someone that the Lord puts on your heart. And I'm looking, and I'm like, okay. And he had said, go zap him. And I was like, I don't know that I can do this zapping thing, I'm ready. And then Jeff says, no, just go over and talk to them, find whoever it was. So I walked up, and I looked, and I saw this one young woman who, when I looked at her, she reminded me of how I would feel, like just hurt and surrounded by all these happy people, but not being able to hold on to or to receive what was there. And I thought, okay, Lord, I go, what do you want me to say? Because usually, I'm like, okay, that's me, but I don't want to judge this person. What do you have for her? I want my words to be what's on your heart, not getting mixed up with what's, I was kind of feeling kind of silly and happy, and I'm like, okay, so help me. And I walked over to her and I said, can I pray for you? And she kind of nodded yes. I think she just shook her head. And so I think this is what I said. I just said, don't be afraid, because the Lord loves you and He'll take care of you. That might be a paraphrase, but I'm pretty sure that's what I said to her. And I gave her a hug and I walked away and I went, okay, Lord, was that all you needed me to say? It felt like, is that it? That's it? There's nobody else. That was it. And so, I walked away. And I have been able to hold on to all this wonderful feeling. And later I found out that I was one person that had prayed for her as a young girl. And the other people prayed for her on the same things. And, you don't always get to hear, you don't always get to know what your prayers do, or if they make any difference, or anything. And, by the next week, I got confirmation that the Lord blessed her. Not just me, but there were other people behind her. And now she's feeling joyful. And now I'm like, wow, Lord, you really do work. You really do work. And I was just blown away. So now I've reconnected with a family that I knew 18 years ago, or 17 years ago, 16, 17 years ago. And the other request I had was to repair a relationship. The Lord honored that a couple of weeks earlier at a fair. And this person that I had hurt, and she didn't talk to me. I used to see her in town, and she would walk right by and not talk to me, and it really hurt. I didn't know what else to do. And this time, she found me and said, hi. And I was like, really? And asked me how I was. So, it may not be this great relationship, but at least it healed a piece of me. So both of my requests that only the Lord knew, God answered within about 6 weeks' time. So, God is just so good. And I looked back at my notes, and there's this verse, Psalm 27:13, and it says, I would have despised unless I had believed that I would see the loving kindness of the Lord in this life, in this earth. And I've held on to that verse for a long time. And I suddenly realized at all of this time, that's what He did. He did for me. He showed me, right? I no longer feel that. Underneath, even if I was happy, underneath there was always this wall that I had to keep the hurt and the pain and the shame. And no one could ever touch it. But it was always there. So I always had to mindfully kind of push it down to the floor and just say, I'm going to live my life, and nobody's going to touch that. And what He did over those 4 weeks was He found that place in my heart. And I don't have to live out of that anymore. I don't have to use the energy to pretend I'm happy. So God is really good. My Father. Oh, my Papa. I thank You for the blessings and the joy that You've put in my heart, that You've taken away the sadness in my heart. And I just ask anyone that's listening that's struggling with depression or anxiety, or just painful things that happen in life, your body aches or your arms or your whatever it is, that Lord, that You would find them, that You would put Your arms around them, that You would hold them and speak to each one of them in ways only they know, that You would whisper those things to them that only You and they know, so they know without a doubt that it's You, and that Your words would bring comfort and peace and joy, and just give them wisdom to be able to to address the issue that's causing them pain, if it's a person or a situation, and that they would know that you're standing right next to them. That you're not just there for this prayer, but you're there always. And so when they go into that situation, they're not going alone. They're going with you. And I just ask this in Jesus' precious name.
Who can stand against us? You have come to save.